Well, for more on the ceremony of the certificate recognition of King Misuzulu, we're now joined via Zoom by Kgosi Nyalala Pilane, who's the Deputy President of the Congress of Traditional Leaders of South Africa. Thank you very much indeed for joining us, Kgosi. Thank you for your time.
Well, thank you very much for having me.
How important was today? It was handing over a certificate, but we saw kings, chiefs and other leaders all converging, coming from far and wide to be part of this event today. What does that tell us?
Well, today's event really, Peter, confirms the role that the traditional leaders, Kgosi or the kings, can play in the society, in the country.
Tell us a little bit more about this role. A lot of expectations have been put upon King Misuzulu, and I just wonder, what can traditional leaders, kings and chiefs do in a modern society?
Well, traditional leadership or the leaders have always been the governance of rural communities, where all the developments and infrastructure was provided by the traditional leaders together with their communities. And actually it also gives pride to their communities, because when they work with the traditional leaders, they become part of it. They contribute to all the developments, and eventually it brings ownership to them. Unlike when it is brought by government, where everybody just expects to be given anything for free and they don't even look after it. So it means that when the traditional leaders are at the forefront of the developments and the governance of their communities, it will definitely bring some changes and improvement to our rural communities.
In your answer, you've mentioned the word rural communities twice now, and I'm just wondering, is that the role of traditional leaders? Because your citizens and your subjects move from these rural areas into towns in their numbers, but they're still your people.
Yes, that's correct, Peter. I was more mentioning of the rural communities because that's where we have been subjected to so far. But we know that we have our communities, even in the urban areas, and even the expectations for the future, it's even our areas would be urbanized, but that's where our leadership will still be needed. So I was mentioning it just for the sake of focusing on our areas where there is still no other services or any other leadership that is provided, because even the municipalities are not providing the services that are required to our communities in the rural areas. But in the urban areas, automatically, because we are not fully there, they seem to be relying on the municipalities. But in our areas, totally, we are still the people who are being looked after when there's a need for people to be attended to. Thank you.
The people look to people like you, traditional leaders, kings, chiefs, to be the custodians of the rich history and culture that your nations are. I wonder, with urbanization, is some of that being lost? And what role can you play to preserve these legacies?
I don't think urbanization can necessarily wipe out the traditions, because our lifestyle as blacks, we live as families and communities and extended families, and that is where this culture is preserved, because then you know that you live with everybody. You don't have to be an individual on your own. So I don't think urbanization, unless if it is done without us, where the Kgosi would not be part of the development, and which is what we are complaining, because we cannot do that until we have a proper support in terms of the budget and resources. Currently, we are not having anything, and whatever we do on our own with our communities, but without necessarily support of government, because all the resources are given to the municipalities, and eventually they don't even reach to the communities where they're supposed to. So hence our focus on saying we can always do it, provided obviously we are part of the processes and we are provided with the resources.
Let's talk a little bit about the work of a new king. King Misuzulu is new to his throne and his work. What are some of the important things that a new monarch, a new chief, a new leader needs to do? I suppose one is...
I lost you a little bit, Peter.
I was just saying, a new leader, a new king, a new chief, what are some of the first things that they need to do once they step into this new role?
Well, normally the leadership of Kgosi, it's always been there. Even if when you come as a new incumbent, you're not starting anything from scratch. You hit the ground running because it has always been there. You have all other members who have been there in the institution, so you're just becoming the head or like the CEO, but the machinery has always been there. So there's basically no need to be worried of the new king when he comes in. He will just have to adjust, and unless he comes up with a new concept, a new vision, which will obviously be to enhance what is already been there, not necessarily starting from scratch. So I think what we are expecting, or it's expected of the King of AmaZulu, Isilo, is to continue where his father has left, and this is what he has committed to his nation when he was inaugurated or coronated. Thank you.
I suppose there must be some pressure, though, when your father was someone who reigned for so long and was so well revered and regarded.
Yes, of course. There's always a need to adapt. For instance, the needs are always changing. The environment is always changing. So you just have to adapt, but you don't necessarily introduce new things in terms of culture. So I don't expect much of changes except where he introduces something that enhances what is already there. For instance, in our areas, we don't have services, we don't have connectivity. All those are the things that he can speed up in installing them so that he enhances what is already there, and which will obviously be to improve the lives of his nation.
We were watching with great interest, seeing kings coming from other parts of the continent. I just wonder, you know, between countries, we have diplomats and we have international relations. What kind of relationships exist between monarchs from different nations and different countries?
Yes, we do still keep that contact as traditional leaders or monarchs. It is not as formal as it is with the politicians or governments. And obviously the major problem is the resources, but we always have these contacts and even assisting in terms of ideas and how to, because basically the culture, it's not that much difference in all these nations, because one thing for sure, the traditional leadership is the main focus when you come to social coherence and social fiber. So we always have to benchmark with other areas, and hence that's where we keep on in contact with each other.
Kgosi Pilane, thank you very, very much indeed for your time. We're going to have to leave it there, but thank you so much for your insights tonight.
Thank you so much as well, Peter, and your
Thank you.
viewers.
All right, so that's Kgosi Nyalala Pilane, who's the Deputy President of the Congress of Traditional Leaders of South Africa, speaking to us after the certification process that saw King Misuzulu being recognized officially by the state of South Africa as the King of the AmaZulu.